came back to Berlin, and things were changing. The children that I used to play with on the street or in our apartment building suddenly looked at me and told me I was a dirty Jew. I didn't know what that meant. I had no idea what they were talking about. I couldn't walk on the street without these same children pushing me and spitting on me and throwing stones at me. I couldn't understand what was going on, and I said to my mother, what did I do? I don't look any different from yesterday. I didn't do anything to them. Even the parents told me, get away from me. Get away from my daughter. You can't play with her anymore because you're bad. So my mother said, shh, we have to be very, very careful because we're Jews. And that was the first time I realized that being Jewish was not very healthy, that I really had to watch out. And since I was so young at the time, I thought if I looked down and I didn't make eye contact with anyone, they wouldn't see me. That's how little children think. But it didn't help me any. Jewish doctors and lawyers and teachers and officials in different universities or different places lost their jobs only because they were Jewish. So they couldn't bring an income anymore to their home. And things got to be very tough. And Jewish men were disappearing. I had a girlfriend whom I never saw again. I've always looked for her, I never saw her again. She was my best friend in school, whose father was taken away. And after a while, when enough money was paid, sometimes you could do that in the beginning of the Holocaust, if you paid a lot of bribes and they let the men out again. I didn't recognize this man, her father, because all of a sudden he was all bent over and his hair had turned gray, and he would hardly talk to me. They were not allowed to talk about what had happened to them in the concentration camps. And of course, I was worried they were going to do this to my father. So people were getting very anxious in Germany. And then came the changing of our names. Did you know that they changed our names? You did? The middle names, right? They changed our middle names. Jewish people, Jewish women and girls' middle name had to be Sarah, which is why my book, the title of my book is Once My Name Was Sarah. Okay? And Jewish males had to change their middle name to Israel. So anyone here who's Jewish suddenly would become whatever, John, Israel, whatever it is, all of a sudden. And you had to go to the police station and have that changed. And if you didn't, you got into a lot of trouble. So my father changed our names, and he said, oh, aren't we lucky we're all getting new names? But my mother was crying, so I didn't understand all these different messages I was getting. And then came Crystal Night. Does anybody here know anything about Crystal Night? Crystal Night, yes. Back there, what is it?
It's when the guards started walking around and like breaking all the windows.
I can't hear you too well, but
That's a pretty good answer. It's about when the guards all started to go around breaking all the windows of Jewish shops.
right, the shops and the synagogues in particular. The synagogues are shops and the homes that they could get to. They smashed all the windows and all the glass was all over the streets, and they set fire to our synagogues. And the fire engines came, but they didn't touch the synagogues at all. They only put water on the German houses next door so they wouldn't catch fire. But the synagogues were not touched by water, so they could burn. All our books were thrown out in the street and burned. And fortunately, we were home that night, our family. And we sat on the floor in our apartment, on the ground. We switched off the lights, and we were hoping the neighbors wouldn't say that we were home, hoping that they would think we weren't home. Because if they did, these people would come in and get us, get my father and possibly even my mother. So we were lucky that day that we didn't get caught, but thousands of Jewish men were taken away and beaten up and taken to concentration camps. And a couple of days later, we walked on the street, my mother and I could still hear the glass, the broken glass crunching under my feet. You know that feeling when you walk on broken glass? Well, even today, if I walk in a parking lot or somewhere where there's broken glass, I hear those echoes in my head. The fear is always there. It does not leave you. It's just there for a second, and I remember always told me. It's always with me. So after that, Jewish people in Germany and also in Austria and some other places decided that maybe they should get out of the country because they were going to get caught by the Germans and taken away to some other place. But a lot of people didn't have papers. Our family didn't have papers either. So we didn't have any German passport because my father wasn't born in Germany, he was born in Czechoslovakia. So they decided to send the children out, send the children in transports out. 10,000 children were sent to England on something called a kinder transport, which means a children's transport. And then many children went to Switzerland and some people went to some other places. But these children were told the day before they left that you're going to go on a train tomorrow and you're just going to